This past Sunday, members of Early Rain Covenant Church were blocked from entering their worship building. With their leaders detained and facing jail, churchgoers decided to pray and worship outside. On December 9th, authorities in the city of Chengdu arrested prominent Christian pastor Wang Yi, along with his wife and 100 members of Early Rain Covenant Church. Authorities shut down the church and charged Pastor Wang with inciting subversion of state power. He and his wife could face up to 15 years in prison if convicted. Early Rain, like scores of other congregations, is outside government control as part of China's burgeoning so-called underground or house church movement. Appearing on CBN News' World Beat, Todd Nettleton of Voice of the Martyrs says this movement has touched every corner of China.
And that's the exciting thing is all across China, there are house churches, there are what they call family churches. And the reason the communist government is so worried is because there are far more Christians in China than there are members of the Communist Party.
Nettleton says Beijing is waging a brutal and widespread crackdown to stop the growth of these unregistered churches.
This crackdown, I think, is a direct response to the fear of the Communist Party leaders who see the church growing way faster than the party is.
Mr. Yang, has China declared war on Christianity?
Yes.
Fang Gong Wang, a leading expert on religion in China, says what started several years ago as a small government campaign against unregistered churches has turned into all-out war.
The campaign was first experimented in Zhejiang province in 2014 to 2016. Now it has become a nationwide campaign.
A campaign where authorities routinely target houses of worship, destroy crosses, burn Bibles, and arrest pastors. Mr. Fang Gong, who once predicted that China could become the world's largest Christian nation, says the government, headed by Xi Jinping, views Christianity as a threat to the party's long-term political aspirations.
Christians are the remaining NGOs in the shrinking civil society in China. And under Xi Jinping, and the Chinese Communist Party is really trying to establish a totalitarian rule of Chinese society. And the Christians are standing in the way of totalitarianism. So that's why they became a target.
Pictures shared on Early Rain's Facebook page claim to show that police physically abused some of those arrested after they were taken into custody. Foreseeing this possible arrest, Pastor Wang wrote a letter titled My Declaration of Faithful Disobedience, with instructions that it should be published if he went missing for more than 48 hours. In it, Wang vowed to use non-violent methods to stand against Chinese laws he believed were against the Bible and God. My Savior Christ also requires me to joyfully bear all costs for disobeying wicked laws, Wang wrote. I am filled with anger and disgust at the persecution of the church by this communist regime, at the wickedness of their depriving people of the freedoms of religion and of conscience. Wang is no stranger to authorities. He was once one of China's most prominent civil rights lawyers and intellectuals. In 2005, he had an encounter with Jesus Christ and decided to convert to Christianity. He gave up his law career to pursue his calling as a pastor and started Early Rain in China's Sichuan province. His sermons, many of them widely circulated on social media, soon made him a rising star and an important player in the Christian revival that was sweeping China. All that has come to a screeching halt with his arrest and the closure of the church. Still, members of his congregation vowed to keep meeting despite the risk of arrest. George Thomas, CBN News.